And B, a lot of kids, a lot of people out there are wondering if their child has amazing abilities that are um, maybe more than the average kid. So I kind of wanted to help you to find out if your child or grandchild may be having the traits. I've even got a few tests that will also be fun things. And remember, when you're working with your kid, and I don't care how psychic you think your child is, tests are not to be seen as the be all end all, because as all of us know that went to school and took GED tests or whatever those tests were, um, not all of us do well in them. And especially in my time when I was an indigo child, uh, I remember that I went to class, but I was always feeling and reading the intensity of the kids around me. And when I was watching the teacher speak, I wasn't hearing what she was saying about the things I was supposed to be absorbing. I was instead seeing her brushing her hair with a sad look on her face. All these things that a lot of psychic kids feel. When How does a psychic child go to school, be in any kind of situation, and not totally absorb and feel the energy around them? So it's no surprise that many psychic children actually do not do very well in school and are seen as distracted. Another thing that you may notice about your psychic child is that they pick up your energy. When you come in the door, it's as if they suddenly act out and begin to duplicate your bad day, the last thing you needed. All children do this, though, of course. All children pick up our energy. But if you have a psychic child, the chances are that they're picking up your eyes, and all of the things of your energy and your vibration are probably compounded by the fact that they're reading you every minute. And you will know just the minute you look into their eyes and the way that they're acting. Throughout the world, it is largely believed that many of us are born with psychic ability. All of us. But this being said, it should come as no surprise if your child has the uncanny ability to predict exactly when the school bus will arrive, or suddenly become fearful of crossing the street just moments before an unseen car barrels down the road. Despite the fact psychic ability can vary very, very much from person to person, child to child. And one person may be very in tune with their abilities, while another may have next to no skill. And have you ever noticed on some of these ghost shows, which we're coming into autumn and Halloween, and there's going to be a lot of those on? Um, why is it that one person can have visits and feel and see things in houses, and the next person can walk into a totally haunted house of cesspool energy, not even feel a thing? Well, probably because maybe they're a little more focused in another dimension than that person or child that is more psychic. It doesn't make them better. It doesn't make them worse. The child that is less psychic is just as beautiful and just as good as the psychic child. But discovering whether or not your child is psychic is not generally as simple as asking him or her whether or not he can see into the future or see spirits. Luckily, there are many personality traits that are often shared amongst psychic kids. That's right. For instance, additionally, there are a few tests that can be utilized, and some of these tests are very interesting. A lot of them are about, maybe you've seen them on the market. A lot of the cards are placed um, with pictures, and then the pictures are turned upside down, and you ask your child, what's underneath? Shuffle them up real good, and then ask your child to tell you what is underneath a card, what on the picture that is underneath that card that's upside down. A lot of times, a really psychic child just knows. To go hand in hand with the sensitivity that psychic kids have, there's also a strong sense of empathy. What is empathy? Empathy is compassion, that ability to go up to an animal, that ability to go up to somebody that's sick or that's hurt and just seem to tune into them and hold their hand, or seem to just want to talk to them or make them feel better. In addition to being sensitive to the moods of others, children with psychic abilities are often sensitive to the personalities of those others around you. For example, say you're otherwise friendly and sociable little darling suddenly clams up when a nice woman sitting next to you in the bus is trying to talk to them. This small change in your child's demeanor can mean a few things. However, unless there is some obvious reason to fear this person, your kid may have simply been feeling or an unusual vibe from that person. These vibrations may also extend to crowds and places that you are with your child, and they may become very suddenly frightened or extremely happy in a location that you personally feel nothing from. Well, I have a little story about my little psychic Scorpio granddaughter. I went to a fairy festival. And the fairy festival had, I have to laugh because I often notice that in this fairy festival, you have people on stilts dressed like Pan, and the legs of the stilts are covered with furry legs so that you can't see them. But there's these monstrous fairies and Pans and centaurs walking around. And often they will have in these fairy festivals older hippie people like me, but I have noticed that the older that the hippies get, the older that the fairies get, the larger their wings get, until you have these rather sedentary, older looking fairies with these humongous wings they can barely carry. They're beautiful, but it seems to be the protocol for fairy festivals that the older the person, the larger the wings. Anyway, I get away from the subject. My granddaughter and I went to see the band. Well, she was absorbing what I was absorbing, but it was belly dancers, it was music from Germany, from a pagan band, and it was just incredibly exhilarating, and people dancing and laughing and having a wonderful time. And I saw this horrified look on my granddaughter, who was probably about maybe 12, 13. And she began to cry hysterically. And I felt so terrible. But then I started to look around me, and sure enough, in the crowd were some people on bad acid who my beautiful little granddaughter Nothing they had done, but she had completely picked up the energy of this bad acid from these people. So I quickly took her away from the incident, and we were far, far away from that. But it was just an example of how children, our psychic children, can pick up so well the sometimes crazy, sometimes happy, and sometimes very confusing energy of people. A lot of psychic kids are extremely fond of animals and may, in some subtle way, be able to communicate with them. Additionally, they frequently have imaginary friends. And in many cases, these invisible people that these psychic kids talk to, and all children, remember, all children have imaginary friends. But you may notice that some of these kids that are a little more psychic have these very detailed conversations with these invisible people. Are they a product of their imagination? Well, maybe, but many times they've been exposed to a current life that lived in that house or that lived in that place that they were visiting. A lot of times they pick up historical energy of a land in a piece of a yard. They may suddenly become quite unnerved and anxious when they're standing in one place in a yard and not want to go there. Though a combination of personality traits may be indicative of gifts, no single attribute can definitely tell you whether or not your child has psychic abilities. But after watching your child's behavior, you are still uncertain. There are these tests that have been created to help make your child's potential a little clearer. Check them out on the internet. Just type in tests for psychic children. Most in person and computer based tests consist of a deck of cards, as I described to you before, or simple images that depict shapes or animals, colors, or numbers. In that test, you, there's a sense of questions about psychic and other supernatural natural experiences that are asked. And also, I want to discuss reincarnation. There's been a lot of shows on TV lately about children, very small children, that are suddenly relating these complicated historical facts that there would be no way they would know about. And yet, they can go into great detail about how they died, which would be something no child would want to talk about or even conceive in most cases. The most compelling reincarnation cases are those in which small children spontaneously remember past lives that can be factually verified. Ian Stevenson, MD of the University of Virginia, compiled over 1,200 of these objectively validated cases, which in aggregate provide proof of reincarnation. His academic research is presented on the ISIS website for children's past life stories. Typically, in these cases, the child starts talking about something that has happened to them in, let's say, a very factual way. They know who their parents were in that life. They may know about how the language they spoke. They may even speak a language that is totally unrelated to English. These memories can include their name in the past lifetime, as well as the names of their parents, family members from the prior incarnation. And the child may also recall the name of the city they lived in or the town they lived in. And when the child provides detailed enough information, the parents or involved researchers are able to locate the past life family that these kids are talking about and introduce oftentimes the child to this family. Often the child will be able to identify these past life family members by name and the individuals that the child has never met in the contemporary lifetime. The child can know information or secrets about their past lifetime that only members of the past life family are aware of. And since they bring these children to these families that they are giving names and locations of course, they would know what these secrets are. I can imagine it probably pretty much shocks them. Based on the child's past life memories, the past life family will often accept the child as the reincarnation of their deceased loved one or just think it's really weird. Two key independently researched reincarnation cases of this kind, which also physically resemble from one lifetime to another, are provided below. And you may want to go to the blog that I have posted today and check out some of these documented stories of reincarnation and kids. I think you'll find it's very interesting, and I would love to have your opinion about any case of a psychic child that may be in your life. I do want to tell you that you can come into the show today by phone. And I want to say thank you to Anne from California for being with us today. And the number you would call is 602 666 6027. You can also go to Studio A at Achieve Radio and listen to